We first saw Ronan the Accuser appear in the MCU during 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. This fanatical devotee of the Kree Empire and royal minion of Thanos may not have stolen our hearts, but at least he went out in an Infinity Stone-induced blaze of glory. Fans were surprised to see him make an appearance in Captain Marvel, and although he barely showed up for more than a cameo, it did raise some interesting implications about Ronan the Accuser. So this is the part of the video where we tell you to turn back now if you want to avoid any spoilers for Captain Marvel. We won't be ruining the ending or anything, but if you want to have a completely spoiler-free viewing experience, we support you in that. Ever since it was announced the Kree-Skrull War would be a key component of Captain Marvel, comic book fans got excited. And non-comic book fans started Googling, what's a Skrull? If you did your best to find an answer on Google, you probably ended up with the idea that the Kree are good and Skrulls are bad. But in the MCU, just like in real life, things are rarely that simple. Even Ronan's previous appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy didn't necessarily disprove the idea that the Kree are the good guys. Yes, Ronan was working for Thanos, the ultimate MCU bad guy, and leading a group of devotees eager to destroy the Nova Corps, but he was treated like a fringe lunatic. Surely he was just a fanatic anti-Nova guy whose sentiments and, let's just say, unorthodox methods weren't supported by the rest of the Kree. The Nova Empire and the Kree waged war for over 1,000 years, and it's safe to say they were bitter enemies. Yes, they eventually signed a peace treaty, but it really wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. Because when push came to shove and a bunch of Kree were attacking the Nova Corps directly, the Kree pretty much shrugged their shoulders and said, not our problem. Ronan the Accuser was more than anything a symptom of the greater problem among the Kree. And this was something Captain Marvel really drove home. Over the course of the movie, we learned that the Kree Supreme Intelligence is not to be trusted. They were responsible for waging war against the Skrulls, who just wanted a habitable planet to call home. But the Kree dedicated tons of resources and soldiers to eradicating any trace of them anywhere in the galaxy. Is it possible that the Supreme Intelligence was more responsible for Ronan's actions than we have been led to believe so far? According to Captain Marvel producer Jonathan Schwartz, the Ronan we saw in the movie was a far cry from the version we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy. Schwartz clarifies that Ronan once had an important role in the Kree military, involving regular interactions with the Star Force. Originally, it seemed like we were going to see more of Ronan the Accuser than we ended up seeing in Captain Marvel. One promo picture showed Carol Danvers and the rest of the Star Force meeting up with Ronan while suited up for battle. This scene didn't make it into the final version of the film, which isn't terribly unusual. According to Schwartz, there's a Ronan origin story buried in the movie, but considering his brief appearances, it must be buried pretty deep. It seems like the main takeaway might be that Ronan wasn't as much of a rogue Kree as we originally thought. The Supreme Intelligence is far from benevolent, to the extent that Captain Marvel vows to expose all of its lies. If they waged a senseless war against the Skrulls, why wouldn't they also be responsible for ultimately setting Ronan the Accuser against Nova? It's even possible that the Supreme Intelligence sanctioned Ronan's involvement with Thanos in an effort to take down Nova. A surprising number of characters have allied with Thanos in an attempt to get what they wanted, no matter the cost. It wouldn't be too inconceivable at this point to suspect the Supreme Intelligence did the same. After all, during Avengers Infinity War, we learned Thanos had accomplished what Ronan had tried and failed to do: exterminate the Nova Corps. Fans have been predicting who the next great MCU villain will be after Thanos is presumably defeated in Avengers Endgame. We've predicted everyone from Annihilus to Galactus, but what if it was someone sitting in front of us all this time? At the end of Captain Marvel, it seemed like C-53, or as we call it, Earth, made it onto the Kree radar as places they wouldn't mind conquering. The Supreme Intelligence may be as big of a threat to Earth as it has been to the Skrulls and the Nova Corps, and based on how those guys are doing, it seems like we are in serious trouble. This idea also fits into the version of Ronan from the comic books. He once worked with the original Mar-Vell and some other Kree to scout out Earth. Surprisingly, Ronan even tried to conquer the Supreme Intelligence at one point, but needless to say, that didn't pan out too well for him. He ended up being overpowered and was mind-controlled by the Supreme Intelligence. It's hard to say whether Ronan might have been completely controlled by the Supreme Intelligence or whether it simply pointed him in a certain direction. But it's clear Ronan wasn't acting totally alone, and though he's defeated, a great enemy still exists in the MCU. The Kree have a long and violent history, and many mysteries about them still remain. But one thing is for certain, that their growing interest in Earth definitely is not a good thing. It seems like we've only been safe because we were flying under the radar, but now that time is over. What do you think about Ronan the Accuser's appearance in Captain Marvel? Do you think he represents the true danger of the Supreme Intelligence, or are the Kree only a threat to the Skrulls? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and then click on that subscribe button for more from CBR. Bye for now.